It has just been announced that the Pentagon plans on sending nearly 4,000 troops to the southern border in an effort to provide more border security. Now, it's abundantly clear that Donald Trump is the individual pushing for this to happen, and there are members of his own administration who have spoken out against that. But before we get to those comments, let me give you the details on what's going on. According to according to NPR, another 3,750 troops will be sent to the southern border to help install wire barriers and to monitor crossings.
That should be really helpful.
The new deployment will bring the total number of active duty troops there to around 6,000. So remember, we already had troops at the border because Trump had sent them there in response to a dangerous caravan, which we then heard nothing about following the midterm elections. Another 2,100 National Guard troops are also stationed there. One other thing to keep in mind is that Patrick Shanahan, who is the acting defense secretary in Trump's administration, said this about sending more troops to the border. At the Pentagon, people I talk with say, listen, this is a waste of money. You don't use active duty troops for this. Military troops deployed at the border are not allowed to apprehend migrants the way border agents do. Some people say, like, no, we get it. This is ridiculous, and he can't come out and say that he thinks it's ridiculous. But to be fair to him, there are certainly members of the Pentagon who think that this is a waste of resources and completely unnecessary.
Yeah, so look guys, this is the most obvious political trick ever, right? So if the military is not allowed to do law enforcement inside the country, which they are not, constitutionally not allowed to, legally not allowed to under any circumstance, and even the Trump administration acknowledges that, why are we sending them there? So they can't stop anyone from crossing the border. They're legally not allowed to stop anyone from crossing the border. So they're there to build, wires, put up wires? Couldn't we hire people at minimum wage to put up wires? Why do you need the military to put up wires or a fence? That makes no sense at all. The only reason you would do that is for political theater. So Trump, as usual, hiding behind the troops and using them as a political gimmick. You MAGA guys must be so proud.
And this is, again, the second time that he's doing it, using our military for his political purposes, using them as props, and it's disgusting. But he was specifically asked about what he expects to happen prior to February 15th. Now, February 15th is when Congress needs to find a long-term solution to funding the government. And so Trump is certain that they will not agree to giving him the funding for the border wall. And so he has all sorts of tricks up his sleeve. We've talked about how he plans on declaring a national emergency, but he had some interesting things to say during an interview with Face the Nation over the weekend. Here he is talking about a possible government shutdown.
Would you shut down the government again?
Well, we're gonna have to see what happens on February 15th.
And you're not taking it off the table?
Well, I don't take anything off the table. I don't like to take things off the table. It's that alternative, it's national emergency, it's other things. And there have been plenty national emergencies called. And this really is an invasion of our country by human traffickers. These are people that are horrible people, bringing in women mostly, but bringing in women and children into our country, human trafficking. And we're gonna have a strong border. And the only way you have a strong border is you need a physical barrier, you need a wall. And anybody that says you don't, they're just playing games.
Look, I know that he is inconsistent all the time, and so it's almost worthless to bring this up, but I can't help myself. He just admitted there that the majority of people coming in are women and children. And then he simultaneously calls them dangerous criminals, drug dealers, rapists. No, they're women and children who are seeking asylum, that, but he'll smear them, in one interview or in one tweet, and then he'll turn around and, refer to them as women and children who are nothing more than victims of human trafficking.
Yeah, look, everything he says is a lie. So I don't know if the majority of the people coming in are women and children. I wouldn't be surprised at that fact. Are the majority of them women and children who are being trafficked into the sex trade? No, not remotely. That's totally made up, 100% fiction. It's not like that phenomenon does not exist, but is it a significant portion of the people coming in? No expert has ever said that. He did that to demagogue, right? Oh my God, all these dangerous human traffickers are bringing in people to get trafficked into this country. Yeah. I've heard all this demagoguery before. It's total nonsense. It only works on idiots who wear red hats. So now let's go back to the political theater he's playing. So he's going to declare the national emergency, it looks like. Even the Republicans don't want him to, because it's also not very constitutional. You're supposed to declare it only and subvert Congress's ability to spend only in actual emergencies like outbreak of a significant disease or an attack in the country that you have to respond to immediately, et cetera. And this does not fall into any of those categories. So he's sending the troops over there so that he can say in the State of the Union tomorrow and later in February 15th, when they get to the deadline, well, I mean, I sent the troops there because it's a national emergency. This is so important.
Yeah.
And then of course sprinkle in the usual Trump absurdities. It's national emergency and other things. And I don't like to take anything off the table. I like things on the table. Okay, so but this is all the same thing over and over again. And if he does get his national emergency and he gets 5 out of the $70 billion that he needs for the wall, a tiny fraction of the wall will be built. And according to Trump's logic, that means we'll all still be in grave danger because only a tiny percentage has been built under his watch. And that's all he asked for. He didn't fight for it earlier. And let's just call it what it is. So the wall, it's a physical manifestation of conservative voters' cowardice. So they're deathly afraid of everything. Gay people, oh my God, trans people are gonna come into my bathroom. Oh, I'm so afraid, I'm so afraid. Oh, Latinos are coming in, the human traffickers are coming in. The Muslims scare me, I'm scared. And Trump knows his voters are cowards, so he just keeps pressing on that nerve, that raw nerve. Oh my God, remember cowards, how scared you are. You need a big bad wall to protect you from all the traffickers and the rapists and the criminals, and I alone can protect you. And the guys wearing the red hats, cower under those hats. Like, oh, please, Daddy Trump, build a wall or a tiny portion of a wall.
Yeah, look, I think some of the wall supporters genuinely do believe that the wall will somehow solve some of the problems that they've made up in their heads. But I think that the majority of Americans, the majority of the electorate understand that the wall would not actually solve some of the issues that are rightfully raised. So for instance, drug trafficking. Okay, I mean, my solution to drug trafficking would be legalize and regulate all of it. I know that sounds crazy, but that takes power away from drug traffickers, right? Yeah. Like, let's get rid of drug traffickers by taking their power, their influence, their money away from them, their whole business away from them.
Anna, that sounds totally crazy.
Yeah,
okay.
I know.
I mean, what are you gonna do next? Legalize all alcohol?
Well, here's
not
the thing.
just beer, but all alcohol? That sounds crazy.
Drugs coming in to the United States because there's clearly a market for drugs in the United States. But why don't we take a good hard look at what's happening in our own country, in our own backyard, and think about, I don't know, smart ways to solve this issue, because a wall's not gonna solve it. But the second thing I wanted to mention is, look, I think most Americans realize that the wall would not solve drug trafficking. Right now, the El Chapo trial is unfolding, and we're learning more and more about how he did smuggle drugs here into the United States. He did it through tunnels, he did it through legal ports of entry. A wall wouldn't have solved that issue. So again, Americans know. But with that said, Trump keeps regurgitating the same nonsense talking point as if he even cares about people who are addicted to drugs or cares about Americans in general. All he cares about is constructing his hate monument so he could turn back to his base. He can turn back to Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh and be like, please stop bullying me. I built your stupid wall.
The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.